हरिः ओम् ॐ गणानाहं त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पदानश्चिन्मन्नूतिभिस्सीदसादनम् ॐ श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता वन्दे श्रीगुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ श्रीशङ्कराचार्य स्वामिने नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ओं श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओं।
नमस्ते महोदय। अनुपमा भट् भगिनी। अनुपमा भगिनी।
हाँ भगिनी। नमस्ते महोदय।
नमस्ते।
आत्मसंभविता स्तब्धाः
आत्मसंभाविता स्तब्धाः।
आत्मसंभाविता स्तब्धाः धनमानमदान्विताः यजन्ते नाम यज्जैस्ते दम्भेनाविधिपूर्वकम्।
ललिता भगिनी।
अहंकारं बलं दर्पं कामं क्रोधं च संश्रिताः मामात्मपरदेहेषु प्रद्विषन्तोऽभ्यसूयकाः।
गुड।
वीणा फानिश्री भगिनी।
नमस्ते महोदय।
नमस्ते।
तानहं द्विषतः क्रूरान् संसारेषु नराधमान् क्षिपाम्यजस्रमशुभान् आशुरीष्वेव योनिषु।
गुड।
कृष्ण पावनी भगिनी।
आसुरीयोनिमापन्नाः मूढा जन्मनि जन्मनि मामप्राप्यैव कौन्तेय ततो यान्त्यधमां गतिम्।
गुड।
मृणालिनी गोपालन भगिनी।
त्रिविधं नरकस्येदं द्वारन्नाशनमात्मनः कामः क्रोधस्तथा लोभः तस्मादेतत्त्रयं त्यजेत्।
गुड।
उषा श्रीनिवासन भगिनी।
एतैर्विमुक्त कौन्तेय तमोद्वारैस्त्रिभिर्नरः आचार्यात्मनः श्रेयः ततो याति।
आचरति नक आचारवर का आचरत्यात्मनः श्रेयः। आचरति means you are complying certain things like acharam in South India. This is acharam. आचरत्यात्मनः श्रेयः।
आचरत्यात्मनः श्रेयः ततो याति पराङ्गतिम्। आचरत्यात्मनः श्रेयः ततो याति पराङ्गतिम्। थैंक यू सर।
विजयलक्ष्मी भगिनी।
यशास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य वर्तते कामकारतः न स सिद्धिमवाप्नोति न सुखं न पराङ्गतिम्।
श्रीमती भगिनी।
तस्माच्चास्त्रं प्रमाणन्ते कार्याकार्यव्यवस्थितौ ज्ञात्वा शास्त्रविधानोक्तं कर्म कर्तुमिहार्हसि. Thank you.
Continue. You continue.
ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्याया योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे दैवासुरसम्पद्विभागयोगो नाम षोडशोऽध्यायः.
Good. So
Thank
with
you.
this, we have completed the 16th chapter yesterday, and 16th chapter and 17th chapter, these two chapters are talking about the way of life that somebody should be focused on, because the goal of life is very much connected to the way of life. So Bhagavan has already talked about what is jnana, what is moksha, what is karma, all those things he has covered in the 15th chapter. Now he says that if at all somebody is going to be pursuing the goal of life, then how do you go about? What is the kind of way of life he has got to lead? So that is what he is now covering in the 16th and 17th chapter. In 16th chapter, he was talking about the people who are having gunas like a deva and people who have got a guna like that of a rakshasa, asura. So he said how will they behave, etc. has been covered very detailed. 3 shlokas were used for the people who are having daivika sampat, the wealth of devata, and then subsequently he said that the people who have got daivika sampat, they will be able to be pursuing moksha, whereas the one who is going to be asuric sampat will be continuing to be in the samsara, and they may also get into a spiral of getting into lower and lower levels of existence in the world. So he said that it is essential that understanding is that we need to ensure that we have to start looking at daivika sampat, which has got to be cultivated, so that we are able to move forward. And he finally concluded telling that there are 3 things that we have to give up. What are 3 things? Kama, krodha, lobha. If these 3 things are given up, that is the way one should be able to spiritually grow. So, and Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Bhagavan has been talking right from the 2nd chapter in many places. And here also he says that if at all you want to have Devi Sampat, Kama, Krodha, and Lobha needs to be definitely got rid of. Then only one will be able to move further in spiritual growth. And another thing also he had assured Arjuna that, Arjuna, don't worry about it. You are already having Daivika Sampat. He had already also told Arjuna, I'm giving all these things, but you are already having Daivika Sampat. Don't worry about this. But this is what is required. Then he has also concluded the chapter by telling that whatever is ordained in the Shastras, based on the Shastras only, people should decide what is to be done and what is not to be done. So, Tasmat Shastram, what is the sloka? Tasmat Chatram Pramanante Karya Karyo Vyavastito Jnatva Shastra Vidanuktam Karma Kartum Iha Arhasi. He said that Shastram should be the guiding principle. One should follow the Shastra in terms of living up in this world, and thereby they decide about what is to be done and what is not to be done, and use the Shastra only as the Pramanam. That is the only thing that you have to use for deciding what is right, what is wrong. That is the way he concluded the 16th chapter. 17th chapter also, Bhagavan, he could have concluded now. By talking about the Asuri qualities and Devata qualities, he could have completed everything. But then he also felt that it is not sufficient to conclude at that place, and he has got to also further make it more clear to Arjuna. And Arjuna means all of us, in terms of other things that we need to start focusing in terms of the way of life. Okay, so he is going to now talk about Shraddha. So the next chapter that we are going to be discussing is called Shraddha Traya Vivaga Yoga. He is going to be talking about Shraddha. Shraddha means the kind of the way one person is able to develop his character and then the commitment, etc. In terms of there are three different categories. Sattvic category is there, Rajasic category is there, Tamasic category is there. And these 3 people across 4 dimensions in terms of how do they eat, how do they do the pujas and yajnas, how do they do the tapas and austerities and other kinds of things, and how do they do dana, charity. So he is going to now talk about these three different people, the Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic people, across 4 dimensions of food, whatever they eat, the dhanam, the charity that they do, the tapas, the austerities that they do, and yajna, the kind of puja and the rituals that they do. So that is what is going to be the focus as far as the Sajjatre Vibhaga Yoga is concerned. Now, Bhagavan thought that he has concluded everything in the 16th chapter, but Arjuna has now got a question. He starts only with a question in the 17th chapter, and we will go to that now. Okay. Next. Somebody is coming.
Sorry, mute. Sheila Shinde Bagini.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. अथ सप्तदशोऽध्यायः श्रद्धात्रयविभागयोगः
ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ सप्तदशोऽध्यायः श्रद्धात्रयविभागयोगः।
Good, just hold on. Arjuna uvaच ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य
अर्जुन उवाच ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य
यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः
ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः.
It is mu, not bru. Shastra vidhi mutsrujya. I heard it as mrutsu. It is mutsru.
Yes, sir. ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः. Yes, sir.
Good. Next.
Rajeshwari Shivshankar Bagini.
Tesha nishta tu ka Krishna.
तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण
सत्वमाहो रजस्तमः
सत्वमाहो रजस्तमः सत्वमाहो रजस्तमः
तेषा निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्वमाहो रजस्तमः
तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्वमाहो रजस्तमः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्वमाहो रजस्तमः.
Good. Next.
Gurumurti Mahodaya.
ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः
ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः.
Good. Next.
Sai Lakshmi Bagini.
तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्वमाहो रजस्तमः
तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्वमाहो रजस्तमः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्वमाहो रजस्तमः.
Good. Next.
Sri Lakshmi Bagini.
अर्जुन उवाच ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्वमाहो रजस्तमः.
नमस्ते सर.
अर्जुन उवाच ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्त्वमाहो रजस्तमः.
Good. Next.
Rajalakshmi Bhagini.
ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धया यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्त्वमहो रजस्तमः.
Good. Next.
Krishna Pavani Bhagini.
ये अर्जुन उवाच ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण तत्त्वमाहो रजस्तमः.
Good. So now the last sloka of the last chapter, as we discussed, Bhagavan concluded telling that Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te. He said that Shastram is Pramanam in terms of deciding Karya, Akarya, Vyavastito, in terms of determining what is to be done and what is not to be done. So Bhagavan had told Shastram is Pramanam, and that is what you should be abiding by in terms of deciding what you should do and what you should not do. Now, when Bhagavan concluded the chapter, Arjuna had a doubt. Supposing I have not read Shastra in my life, I am already 60 years old, I do not know what is Shastra, what is given in Shastra, I do not know. So what happens to those kinds of people? But I am a God-fearing people, I am a God-fearing person, I love God, I got enthusiasm for going to temple, I got enthusiasm for doing different kinds of pujas and rituals. I got a lot of faith and shraddha in that. But only thing is I have not learned Shastras because everything is in Sanskrit, or I have not got time for going to all those things. Then what happens? That is the kind of doubt Arjuna has got now. Ye Shastra Vidhim Utsrujya, Shastra Vidhim Utsrujya. The people who are ignoring the calling in the Shastras, okay? So those people who do not know scripture, they are Shastra with illiterate people. Okay. Yaha Shastra Vidhi Mutsujya, those people who are illiterate as far as Shastra is concerned, Yajante Shraddhayan Vitaha. They are praying, they are doing everything with Shraddhaya Anvitaha, means with so much of faith, so much of devotion, so much of commitment, so much of emotional attachment. They are doing it daily, day in and day after. Okay. But only thing is, they have not undergone a formal understanding, formal training on Shastra. They don't know what it is. Okay. Tesha nishtatu ka Krishna. What is the status of these kinds of people? Whether they sattvam, rajas, tamaha, are they classified as sattva people, rajas people, or tamas people? Because we know that sattva people are primarily daivik sampat people. Only they are the people who have got the capability of spiritual progression. But now this is one group of people whom we are coming across who has got tremendous devotion, but they have got illiteracy in terms of Shastra teachings. So he is asking what is going to be the status of these people, whether they will be classified as Sattvam or Rajas or Tamas. So this is the kind of question that Arjuna is now asking to Lord Krishna, which is the normal question that all of us we have. And most of us, if you look at that way, most of us have learned it only by the tradition that has been followed in the family, which is very good also. We know our grandfather was doing it, our father was doing it, and then we are doing it. And then we have got some kind of set of things. We know how to do your puja, how to do archana, how to do a sankalpam, how to do naivedyam, how to do deeparadhanai, how to do all those kinds of things. We are very clear. So we know that, and we have learned it from the people who have been there in the family. And some of the bigger functions, etc., we are taking the help of a pandit who will be able to come home and then he'll give a list. You please purchase all these kinds of things, starting from haldi, kumkum, then camphor. He'll give a very big list, and then he'll say tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock I'll come. All of you be ready, have a bath and be ready. Light the lamp. Then we go there. Then he starts doing everything. So we understand from all those kinds of things. So now he is asking a very specific question that in case somebody is not understanding that he is illiterate, what is the status, whether they are be classified as sattva or rajas or tamas? Okay, it's a good question because all of us will have the same doubt. Next.
Lalita Bhagini.
श्रीभगवानुवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा
श्रीभगवान् उवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा
देहिनां सा स्वभावजा
देहिनां सा स्वभावजा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा
त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा
त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा.
Good. Next.
Veena Fani Shri Bhagini.
सात्विकी राजसी चैव
सात्विकी राजसी चैव सात्विकी राजसी चैव
तामसी चेति तां शृणु
तामसी चेति तां शृणु तामसी चेति तां शृणु
सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु
सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु.
Good. Next.
Usha Srinivasan Bhagini.
श्रीभगवानुवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा
श्रीभगवानुवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा श्रीभगवानुवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा.
Good. Next.
Srimati Bhagini.
सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु
सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु.
Good. Next.
Sharat Chavan Mahodaya.
श्रीभगवानुवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु.
श्रीभगवान् उवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु.
Good. Next.
Rajeshwari Shivshankar Bhagini.
Full shloka.
श्रीभगवानुवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु.
Good. Next.
Rajalakshmi Bhagini.
श्रीभगवानुवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु.
Good. One more person.
Mrinalini Gopalan Bhagini.
श्रीभगवानुवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु.
Good. So Bhagavan now says Trivida Bhavati Shraddha. The Shraddha, it has got threefold ways it can come. There are three different kinds of Shraddha that is possible in whom Dehinam, in human beings. So the human beings, he says that they can be classified into three different folds. Trivida Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam. In how do we classify it? Sa Swabhavacha, based on their own characteristics, based on their own behavior. So what is coming out of their own selves? Everybody is individually different, right? Based on that, whatever is the quality that is coming out of individuals, the entire humanity, the Hinam is all the human beings can be classified into three different ways. What are those things? Satviki, Rajasi, Cha, Tamasi. So there's a three. They will be again grouped into three groups only. One is Satvik group, other one is Rajasic group, the third one is Tamasi group only. So he says that everybody will be coming under only these three groups. They will be coming under one of these three groups. And then, if you are going to look at some people who are going to be following the Shastram, scriptures, whatever they say, they are able to follow it thoroughly, then what classification we have to give it to them? They are straight away Sattvic people only. Because Bhagavan has told that Tasma Chatram Prabhanamte Karya Karya Vyavastitaho. So they do everything strictly as per Shastram. How to do Dhanam, how to do Acharya Upasanam, how to do the Pujanam for all the four kinds of five different kinds, Deva Karyam, Pitru Karyam, and then even taking care of the nature, everything is given in the Vedas. So for them, that is the ultimate one which they follow. So when they follow that as per textbook of Shastras, they will be classified only as Sattvic. Only those people who are scripturally illiterate, they have to be identified as to what is the way we have to classify. That is what Bhagavan said. Arjuna's question was only on that, in terms of how do we classify those people who are ignoring or who are illiterate with respect to scripture or Shastras. So Bhagavan's answer is that if somebody is following Shastras, then he is already a Sattvic person only. But in case somebody is not following Shastras, then they will be coming into one of the buckets. It may be a Sattvic bucket or a Rajasic bucket or a Tamasic bucket. And based on that, if you look at Sattvic, Tamasic, and Rajasic, how do you know somebody is Rajasic, Sattvic, or Tamasic? We cannot find out. If I look at somebody on the thing, I do not know what is working in his mind, whether he is a good fellow or bad fellow, we don't know. But we only will try to find out by his actions. So when we are now looking at it from the perspective of spiritual growth, how do we identify that? Primarily, we look at a person, we are able to identify the person and put them into the right kind of a bucket based on what kind of puja he does, how does he do a puja, what kind of deities he worships, whether he is worshipping Shiva, Vishnu or something else. So based on what kind of puja he does, based on how he does, based on what kinds of expectations, bhavana, what kind of bhavana he has got in terms of doing puja, all these things are the ones that we infer based on somebody who is doing the puja or any of these kinds of activities. So based on that, Bhagavan says they can be bucketed as Sattvic or Rajasic or Tamasic. So he says that Trivida Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Cheti Tam Shrunu. Now he says to Arjuna, please, I'm going to tell you now all these things. Shrunu, please listen. No, he's just telling him. Whenever Bhagavan says Shrunu, he's asking us to be more attentive because he's going to start unleashing lot of information. So he's telling Arjuna, Tam Shrunu, please listen to me now. He's telling like a teacher. Okay, now we go next sloka.
Anupama Bhagini.
Sattvanurupa sarvasya
Sattvanurupa sarvasya Sattvanurupa sarvasya
Shraddha bhavati bharata
Shraddha bhavati bharata Shraddha bhavati bharata
Sattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata
Sattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata Sattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata
Good. Next.
वीणा फानिश्री भगिनी
श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः
श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः
यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः
यो यच्छद्रः स एव सः यो यच्छद्रः स एव सः
यो यः, that is yo, yat shraddha, that is yat shraddha. That one, whatever you are seeing, that chai is also shraddha. Yo yat shraddha sa eva sa. Eva sah. It's not
यो
shraddha. It's shraddha, not shadraha. Shraddha. Yo yat shraddha sa eva sah.
यो यच्छद्रः स एव सः
No, that is Shraddha. The sound of Shraddha should come. Yo yach Shraddhasa eva saha.
यो यच्छद्रः स एव सः
Oh, we are now in the chapter on Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. So we are talking, the topic is Shraddha. Yo yach Shraddhasa eva saha.
यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः
It's Shraddha. Yo yach Shraddha. Shraddha. Yo yach Shraddhasa eva saha.
यो यश्रद्धः स एव सः
Correct.
यो यश्रद्धः स एव सः
Correct.
Sorry, sir.
श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः
श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः यो यश्रद्धः स एव सः श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः यो यश्रद्धः स एव सः
Good. Next.
साई लक्ष्मी भगिनी
सत्त्वानुरूपा सर्वस्य श्रद्धा भवति भारत श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः
सत्त्वानुरूपा सर्वस्य श्रद्धा भवति भारत श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः
Good. एव सः. Okay. Good. Next.
विजयलक्ष्मी भगिनी
सत्त्वानुरूपा सर्वस्य श्रद्धा भवति भारत श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः
Good. Next.
उषा श्रीनिवासन भगिनी
सत्त्वानुरूपा सर्वस्य श्रद्धा भवति भारत श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः
Good. One more person.
गुरुमूर्ति महोदय
सत्त्वानुरूपा सर्वस्य श्रद्धा भवति भारत श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः
Good. Now, when you look at this Shraddha is inherent in the individual. Okay. So, if it is inherent in the individual, where do you think Shraddha comes out to individual? It is coming out from the body or comes from the mind? It has to come from the mind. So, for all the beings, Sarvasya, for all the people, Sattvanurupa, this is not the Sattva that we are talking about. This Sattvanurupa talks about the mind. For everybody, it is the mind of the individual from which the Shraddha is going to be coming out. Okay, a person has to have the right kind of mind. So everything comes in the mind. So Sattvanurupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati Bharata. It all comes from the mind only. And based on that, what happens is that the character is being built up. I think there's a very famous English, no, some kind of a poem like thing, not a poem, it's a kind of I don't remember what it is. He says that what you have thought, because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions. Watch your actions because they become a habit. Watch your habit and they become a character. And watch your character because that is going to become your personality. So if you look at that way, the personality of the individual is what we are talking about now. So the personality of individuals keep changing. Yes, house will be there. There will be three children. Each child will have a different personality. One will be inclined to do certain things. The other one will not be inclined. One will be inclined to do all the spiritual things and we participate in these things. The other child will say, "I will not go to the temple. I will only go for these things." This fellow will have some interest. Other fellow will have some other interest. So what happens is that each individual has got his own personality, and the personality is ultimately based on the thoughts that an individual is having. Okay. And sometimes people all think that it is all because of the parental bringing up. It is all because of genes. It's all there in the genes. Of course, parental bringing up is also important. And then the individual genes that is being carried out also is very important in terms of this. But at the end of the day, there is something called free will for the individual. There's also something called prarabdha for the individual. There's also something called Purva Janma Vasana for the individual. And all these things will decide what kind of character a person is going to be. In the same house, you'll find that there are two, three children, and each child will have a different kinds of behavior. One child will say, "I have to take care of my parents." The other child will say, "It is not my responsibility. You take care of yourself." If you look at that way, there are different characters within the families. Then when you look at the other way also, when you say that why it is all parental upbringing, Hiranyakashipu had a son like Prahalada. Hiranyakashipu said that there is no God. Narayana does not exist. All those kinds of stuff he was talking about. But this child born to him is Prahalada, who was absolutely different. He was a sattvic guy, whereas though he was in a Rakshas kind of a family thing, but he was a sattvic person that Prahalada was born, and Prahalada was different kind of a character. You look at it from the same way. If you look at it from Pulasya is supposed to be one of the mind-born children of Brahma. Pulasya's son is Vishtravas. Vishtravas' son is Ravana. And Ravana is a Rakshas. Vishtravas is a kind of a Brahmin. He was one of the most respected saint. But he had a son by name Ravana who had a different Asuric kind of qualities. Whereas the other son he had, who is Vibhishana, was totally different. So it is absolutely, if you look at that way, it all depends on starting from the mind. So we have to understand what you have thought, because thoughts become words, words become actions, actions become habit, habit becomes character, character becomes personality. What happens is that once you are able to have those kinds of things set in the mind, then you become the character. Then people, when you start looking at a personality, when you say, how is that personality? When you don't know the person, you may only be looking at it from the perspective of their body, Stula Sarita, and then say, "Oh, it looks very beautiful, so handsome. Shah Rukh Khan is fantastic, and so and so actress is so beautiful." All those kinds of things we say only based on the external features, the color, and all those kinds of things that a person has got taste for. But actual personality comes only when you're going to interact with them, whether you will be able to get connected to them or may not get connected to them. It is not that actual personality. They say that love is skin deep. Personality is also skin deep. Personality is all basically in the mind. So we have to also, that's what Bhagavan says here, that Sarvasya Sattvan Rupa, everyone, it is the mind is the one that is going to determine the character of the person, that is going to drive the way that person is going to be. The Shraddha, the commitment is going to be that. And when you look at it again from Shraddha perspective, unless otherwise you have a Shraddha for what you are doing, you cannot be successful. A cricketer has got to have his own lifestyle. A tennis player should have his own lifestyle. And some of you might have been watching the chess Olympiad in the last 15 days or so. And I was amazed at all these boys and girls who were less than 20 years of age. They were able to beat all the top class chess players in the world. And 3 days back, when the last final match was going on, Vidit Gujarati was sitting on his chessboard, and then he was just on a deep meditative stance. And the opponent has come, he was trying to shake hands with him, but this guy was in a deep meditative stance for a minute or 2 minutes, and he did not know anything. He was able to have that level of composure that he was able to bring in. Look at the kind of character that they are able to have. Similarly, if you look at that Mukesh, who also won the Grandmaster, another beautiful character, the way he was behaving himself, the way he was composed. Then this Prajnananda who won, and all the girls that Divya and Vantika and all of them were fantastic in terms of the way they were behaving. So that shows the characters, the metal of the individual. And that spreads all over the body. That's what this is Shraddha Mayoyam. Shraddha Mayoyam is the character, it is just not going to be stopping at the mind level. It is going to spread all over the body. All over the body means what happens is that it's the way you talk, the way you behave, the way you are able to do anything is going to be reflected for the person based on the character that he is. Shraddha Mayoyam Purushaha. And then he becomes the Shraddha itself. Okay. If you look at somebody, that person, the Shraddha itself, he becomes that. Okay. That's what he says that Yach Shraddha Saha Eva Saha. So the entire character becomes him. Okay. This character is there from him, but he becomes that character by himself. That's what Bhagavan says that Satvana Rupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati Bharata. Shraddha Mayoyam Purushaha. This Purushaha, do not confuse it with Atma. Do not confuse it with the Purushottama. This Purushaha means human beings. Human beings are full of their character, of the characteristics of the individual. The character in the middle of the individual is pervading to the entire body. Shraddha Mayoyam Purushaha, which means the way he dresses, the way he talks. If you look at that way, even the person's dressing is going to be different. A person will be dressing in one way, the other person will be dressing in another way. Somebody will say, oh, see how elegantly they have dressed. It all matters. It all shows the character of the individual. That's what Bhagavan is beautifully putting it here in this Sattvana Rupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati Bharata. Shraddha Mayoyam Purushaha. We are all Shraddha Mayoyam, pervaded fully with Shraddha. Yo Yat Shraddhasa Evasa. And then the person himself becomes that embodiment of the character. That's what Yat Shraddhasa Evasa. He becomes the embodiment of the character himself. So this is a very important thing that we need to understand. And it is not necessary that a person, just because of his birth, is going to be showing different qualities. It is all conducive for him. But at the end of the day, the other factors also determine what kinds of characteristic a person is going to develop. And I'm sure that all of you will be able to relate it in your own families and in your social circles of different children having different types of characteristics. And parents will have a different type of thinking process. The children will have a totally anti kind of thinking process. And some children will be having very highly disciplined. They come home, they leave the shoes in the right place. The other child will come, throw the shoe in one place, socks will be another place, book will be in one place, pen will be another place. It shows the character of the child. Right from the childhood, all these things matter. So Bhagavan says that it is all there. Sattvana Rupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati Bharata. Shraddha Mayoyam Purushas Yoja Shraddhasa Evasaha. Okay, next.
Sri Lakshmi Bhagini.
Yachante Satvika Devan.
यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यजन्ते सात्विका देवान्
Yaksharaksham Rajasaha.
यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः
Yajante Satvika Devan. Yaksharaksham Rajasaha.
यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः.
Good. Next.
Sheela Shinde Bhagini.
Pretan Bhuta Gananchanye.
प्रेतान् भूतगणाश्चान्ये प्रेतान् भूतगणाश्चान्ये
Yajante Tamasa Janaha.
यजन्ते तामसा जनाः यजन्ते तामसा जनाः
Pretan Bhuta Gananchanye. Yajante Tamasa Janaha.
प्रेतान् भूतगणाश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः प्रेतान् भूतगणाश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः.
Good. Next.
कृष्ण पावनी भगिनी.
यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः प्रेतान् भूतगणाश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः.
यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः प्रेतान् भूतगणांश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः.
Good. Next.
शरत् चवन् महोदय.
Full shloka slowly.
यजन्ते सात्विका देवा यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः प्रेतभूताङ्गनाश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः.
Good. Only one mistake. It is not preta bhutan. Pretan bhutan. They are two different things. Pretans means dead bodies.
Shall I say it again?
The only second line. Pretan bhuta ganasharye.
प्रेतान् भूताङ्गनाश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः.
Now you put one more tan here. Pretan bhuta only.
प्रेतान् भूतगणाश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः.
Good. Yeah. Next.
विजयलक्ष्मी भगिनी.
यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः प्रेतान् भूतगणाश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः.
Good. One more person.
वीणा फानिश्री भगिनी.
यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः प्रेतान् भूतगणांश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः.
Okay, good. So now, in the previous shloka, we studied that Sattvanurupa Sarvasya, which means that it is all in the mind. The character of a person is primarily in the mind. So when you have to identify the character of a person, we cannot get into the mind of another to understand what it is. So the it is not possible to perceive what is there in the mind of other people, but we can only infer based on what the person does. Okay, it is not possible to perceive what is there in the mind. So what Bhagavan says is that he is now taking only the dimension, only worshipping. If you look at worshipping, there are three different ways that he is looking at worship in three different dimensions. One is what kind of deities or what kind of gods the person worships, one. What kinds of modes of worship is the second dimension, and what kinds of bhavana or attitude with which he is worshipping. These are the three things that he is going to be talking about. And based on the way a person worships, what God he worships, and what kind of worship he is doing, and what is the intent behind that worship, if these three things are understood, based on that, it is possible to bucket them as Sattvika, Rajasa, and Tamasic people. Okay. Well, if you look at, for example, a Sattvic person who is going to worship whom? He'll worship Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, then Durga, or Lakshmi, or Kartikeya, Ganesha, Ayyappa. So you got, Sattvic. These are Sattvic people who have got a worship of these kinds of gods. So Yajante Sattvika Devan. They worship all Devatas. They may worship Varuna, Indra, Surya, Aditya Hridayam they'll chant, and all Vedic chanting they'll do. So Yajante Sattvika Devan. All the Sattvic people, they are all going to be worshipping only Devatas. Whereas the Rajasic people, these people start worshipping Rakshasa, Yaksha, Rakshamsi. They worship Yakshas and Rakshasas. For example, Rajasic, they are called the earlier Devatas like Krishna, Vishnu, Shiva, all those things, they are all called Sattvic Devatas. Now, the Rakshasic Devatas are primarily these Yaksha, Kinnara, and then Kubera, Gandharva, Siddha, all these kinds of Rajasic people's worship is all there. So they have a tendency to worship those kinds of people. For example, there are people who will do Kubera Puja very, very grandly in their house. Kubera is one of the Rakshasas. Kubera is the brother of Ravana. Kubera is the brother of Ravana, and he is supposed to be a part of the what do you call this group, Rakshasic kind of devatas only. So these people primarily worship those kinds of devatas, and their expectation of worshipping these devatas is primarily to get power or money, etc. For example, Ravana was also a great worshipper. He did get some boon, but what kind of boon he was asking for? He said that I should be the person who should control the three worlds. Nobody should be able to come and then stop me from conquering the world. That was the kind of demonic kind of an attitude that he had. If you look at Hiranyakashipu, he said that nobody can kill me, neither in the night, nor in the day, nor inside, nor outside, by a man or an animal. He gave all these, by space or earth, all these conditions he put. And then finally, Narsimha Avatara has to be taken, and Narsimha to ensure that he is not going to either the ground or go his space. He put him on his lap, and then no weapon should be used. So Bhagavan used his own Vajranaka. He was able to rip him with his claws. So these kinds of people, they primarily, the intent of prayer is primarily for power, for money, for control, all those kinds of things. So that is a Rajasic kind of a trait. Yaksha Rakshamsi Rajasaha. And then we also have one more group of people who primarily do not do all these things, but they have got the interest of doing all these black magics, etc. I am not very fully, aware of all these kinds of things. But in the Atharvana Veda, there are a lot of things that talks about these kinds of managing the spirits, etc., and then working it out for managing spirits, and then doing certain kinds of things by which these people make money. Like in the case of South India, we used to have one person who comes in the early morning at 4 o'clock. He comes in front of the house and he makes some kind of blabber and go. And invariably, some people say that all these kinds of things happen. And these kinds of people who are tamasic means they are not interested in understanding the real knowledge. The knowledge is Aham Brahmasmi, but these people are only trying to understand all these kinds of techniques by which they can use all these preta, bhuta, all these kinds of things they use in terms of trying to use it for their own benefit of scaring some people, or somebody gives the money to do certain bad thing to somebody or create some trouble in some other place. So these people become a tamasa kind of jana. So he says that based on the kind of intention, based on what they pray, and based on the mode of prayer itself, we can decide as to what kind of bucket these guys are going to be classified. So yajante satvika devan, yaksha raksham, rajasaha yaksha rakshamsi, tamasaha preta buddha, dhanansha, and these kinds of things only these people worship. So one of the things is that you can infer based on their worship style, whom they worship, how they worship, we will be able to bucket them. That's what Bhagavan has told in his particular sloka. Next.
Mrinalini Gopalan Bagini.
Ashatra vihitam goram.
अशास्त्रविहितं घोरम् अशास्त्रविहितं घोरम्
Tapyante ye tapojanaha.
तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः
Ashastra vihitam goram. Tapyante ye tapojanaha.
अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः.
Next.
Rajeshwari Shivshankar Bagini.
Dambahangkara samyuktaha.
दम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः दम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः
Kamaragabalanvitaha.
कामरागबलान्विताः कामरागबलान्विताः
Dambahangkara sayuktaha. कामरागफलान्विताः
दम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः दम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः
Next.
Srimati Bhagini.
अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः दम्बाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः
अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः स्तम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः.
Good. Next.
Sai Lakshmi Bhagini.
अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः दम्बाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः.
Good. Next.
Anupama Bhagini.
अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः दम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः.
Good. One more person.
Lalita Bhagini.
अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः दम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः.
Okay. The 17.5 and 17.6, no? Bhagavan talks about the Rajasic and Tamasic types of worship based on their tendencies and motive, etc. So we'll take 17.5 and 17.6. He talks about Rajasic one, Tamasic only, but Rajasic and Tamasic, he is putting them in one bucket only because he felt that he has got a focus only for Sattvic people. So balance two, he is telling that these two things are Rajasic and Tamasic. So this is the way these people are going to be behaving. So 17.5 and 17.6, he has put them together for Tamasic and Rajasic. He has not even made a kind of classification. He has just put them into non-sattvic into these two slokas. So we'll take 17.6 also and then quickly go to the meaning.
Sheila Chinde Bhagini.
Karshayantah sharirastham
कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थम्
भूतग्राममचेतसः
भूतग्राममचेतसः
कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः
कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः.
Good. Next.
Veena Fanishri Bhagini.
माञ्चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं
माञ्चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं माञ्चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं
तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्
तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्
माञ्चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्
माञ्चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान् माञ्चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्.
Good. Next.
Usha Srinivasan Bagini.
कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्.
कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्.
Good. Next.
Gurumurthy Mahodaya.
Yes, sir. कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्रामं चेतसः माञ्चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्.
Good. Next.
Rajalakshmi Bagini.
कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्.
Good. One more person.
Sharat Chavan Mahodaya.
कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्.
Okay. One more person.
Srimati Bagini. Srimati Bagini.
Yes. कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्.
So now if you look at the last one, Tan Vidhi Asura Nishchayan. Tan Vidya Tan Vidhi. Those things you understand. Asura Nishchayan. These things are all the characteristics of Asuric kinds of people. Tan Vidhi Asura Nishchayan. That is primarily talking about Tamasic and Rajasic kind of a people. Okay. What are the things that he is talking about? Ashastra Vihitam. Whatever they do is not in conformance with the Shastra. Okay. But if you look at the initial thing that Bhagavan started, it is not necessarily that somebody has to have a full understanding of the knowledge of Shastras, but it is all there in the mind, and then it has got a bucketed based on how they do it, whether it's Sattvic or Rajasic or Tamasic. Whereas here, if you look at that way, this fellow, first of these people, they first of all do not have any understanding of Shastra. That is okay. But the kind of austerity they do is Goram Tapyante Tapojanaha. They do tormenting themselves. They do lot of kinds of austerities. And primarily they do it for the purpose of what? Damba Ahankara Samyuktaha. They want to show off that they are capable of doing these kinds of things. That kind, if you look at that way, the next sloka is going to cover about that. Anyhow, I'll preempt it and tell it. If you look at in some of the South Indian temples, you'll find that suddenly one festival will be there, and they'll put lot of hooks on the body. They'll pierce into the body. They put hooks, and then this fellow will be, taking that chariot of some god or deity, and then somebody will have some tongue will be out. They'll have all these shulam or these kinds of trishul, no. Those things will be pierced into the kind of tongue. So these are all called cruel way of doing things. Okay. And then they not only the cruelty with themselves, they also do cruelty for animals also. They say that no, this particular function I have to have animal sacrifice is required. This has got to be done. So all those kinds of things these people do primarily to show off. And also they're driven by what? Kama, Raga, Balanvitaha. They are all driven by desire, and also they are all driven by publicity and such kinds of things. So for those kinds of things, only for show off purposes, these guys do Ashastra Vigitangoram, Tapyante ye Tapojanaha, Damba Ahankara Samyuktaha, Kama Raga Balanvitaha. Whereas if you look at a kind of a sattvic person, no, he will be doing silently, he will be sitting in one corner of the house, silently doing meditation, absolutely undisturbing everything. He'll be this thing. Nobody even know that this guy is there and doing something. That is a kind of actual kind of satvikam. These people, they want to show off everywhere, and sometimes they also torment themselves and then do all those kinds of things. And tormenting, Bhagavan says that kashayanta sharirastam. Okay, sharirastam means that they sharirastam bhutakava machetasah. In the body, there are a lot of organs. They in the body, they'll be tormenting the body because these people have got no understanding. Achetasah, they have no discrimination that what is there inside Sarira is Atma. And Sharira has been given for you to realize the Atma, but these people torment the body only for the purpose of pomp and show, only for the purpose of showing off, or only for thinking that by doing those kinds of things, they are going to get some power, some wealth, some money, all those kinds of stuff. So, Kashayanta, tormenting, Sharirastam Bhutaghama Chetasah. And they also do not even Mamcha Antaha Sharirastam. I am also sitting inside the body. That also these people do not even understand that I am sitting inside the body. Mam. Cha eva antaha sharirastam. Inside the body, I am also sitting as a Bhagavan or Paramatma or Atma. That also these guys do not recognize, but they are only doing all those kinds of things wherein they torture themselves, they torture even animals, they torture a lot of things, but only to show off, only for gaining some kinds of power, wealth, money, etc. That's what they think because they don't know Shastras. So somebody would have started some kind of culture, everybody is following the same culture. इसके लिए ये बकरी काटना है, इसके लिए एक गाय काटना है. So they do all those kinds of things without anything that is mentioned in the Shastras. So he says that these kinds of people are Rajasic and Tamasic people. And this is not in compliance with what is actually the spiritual growth. It will not be conducive for spiritual growth. So I think we'll close it here and we'll continue tomorrow. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. अथ सप्तदशोऽध्यायः श्रद्धात्रयविभागयोगः अर्जुन उवाच ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्त्वमाहो रजस्तमः. श्रीभगवानुवाच त्रिविधा भवति श्रद्धा देहिनां सा स्वभावजा सात्विकी राजसी चैव तामसी चेति तां शृणु. सत्त्वानुरूपा सर्वस्य श्रद्धा भवति भारत. श्रद्धामयोऽयं पुरुषः यो यच्छ्रद्धः स एव सः. यजन्ते सात्विका देवान् यक्षरक्षांसि राजसाः प्रेतान् भूतगणांश्चान्ये यजन्ते तामसा जनाः. अशास्त्रविहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपो जनाः दम्भाहङ्कारसंयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः. माञ्चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्. ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ओम शांति शांति शांति. हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो